Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Monday's Monks Alive. We're going to have a good show today. Got a special guest coming up here in just a few minutes, but I wanted to make a few comments and some news that I'm excited about as we get started. Um, did you notice the questions that were in the countdown? If you came in, I had three questions. The first one was, where where was your first walk in the woods? And these questions will sort of lead us up to probably the topic and the theme of both the show today and then also the contest later. How old were you when you made that first walk in the woods? And then what is it that you liked or didn't like? And we all have stories. And I remember my walks in the woods. I was very young, like 3 or 4 years old, and it was my dad. I was the youngest of six boys, no sisters. My dad would take us out for walks. We lived in the sticks of Alabama, and we would go through, and that's where I think I got this wanderlust of wanting to be out in sea creation. So those are the questions that lead us up. Think about those as we go through, and what your response is going to be. Need some competition here. I'll tell you later. We've had our first repeat winner from a contest, and that contest actually went 2 weeks because last week I did an open mic, and we had several guests just join in with us, and that was a lot of fun to have you do that. Unfortunately, we had an uninvited guest come in and sort of spoiled things, and I had to delete the whole show off of my YouTube and Facebook. But we'll work on that. That won't happen tonight because I only have one guest coming on, but we'll get it all worked out. Well, first shout out. I got some mail this week, and it was international mail. I got it from my friend Al Chafe, and Al sent me his stickers, and he sent me a letter. Let me read this letter to you. He says, Dan, thank you so much for the stickers. I sent him a couple of mine. Here's a couple of mine for you to use. Honored to be part of your show. Look forward to seeing you around, both in chat and on panels. Been amazing to get to know so many wonderful people along this journey on YouTube, and so great to have found you here. Have a fantastic year, my friend. Your friend, Al. And he's right. This community is just quite amazing. And as it grows beyond, my little corner that I've been with, and see others that come in, my guest tonight and my guest for the next couple of weeks. But here is Al's sticker. I know it looks a little dull, but it isn't, because Al's a classy guy, so he protects his stickers with this front. But wait a minute, I'll show you something. Here's my box, and there's his sticker. Looking good with Atypical Hiker and a lot of other wonderful channels on here. So put that back where it belongs. Al, thank you so much. And then another company that sent me something I've talked about in some videos before, Right on Trek. They do backpacking meals. And I got an email from them because that's all I use anymore. And I bought a lot of them for trails. And so they sent me a email and said that one of the meals that I had purchased didn't meet their standards. Now, I've eaten all of those. I didn't find anything bad, but it didn't meet their standards. I sent them back an email and said, it was fine with me. And they said, no, it didn't meet our standards, so we want to send you another meal. So they just sent me free a meal of my choice, and I'm telling you, this is my favorite meal right here. It's that chicken Alfredo pasta, and it's good. So thank you, Right on Track. You guys are quite amazing. And then just a couple of shout outs. I talked about Al, and then for the next 2 weeks, I got guests coming up. And here is Dave Collier Camping. Go check Dave's channel out. Great guy, and you'll get to know more about him coming up next week. And then the following week after that, I have Cool Quest. they're coming on. This couple is just wonderful people, and so you'll get to see them. But tonight, right after this video, because I want to give you a little snapshot of my video that's going to be coming out Saturday and talk a little bit about it. But you can check this guy out. This is Billy with 12 Stones Adventures. So check out his channel. And let me just show you this video real quick, and then we'll talk with Billy about it. This project's focused on the 142 miles of the Cherokee Trail from the Oklahoma border near Tyro, Kansas, and then traveling northwest through the Chautauqua Hills and then the Flint Hills to intersect with the Santa Fe Trail about 10 miles west of Gossel. So what am I doing in Tahlequah, Oklahoma? It would be unthinkable, disrespectful, and even incomplete if I ignored where this all began. It was in 1839 when the Cherokee were displaced from their homelands in Georgia and the Carolinas, Tennessee, and Alabama. And they were pushed west to Indian Territory. History knows that displacement as the Trail of Tears. They settled here in Oklahoma and established their capital at Tahlequah. Judge Elijah Hicks, he led his group on this grueling journey where 54 of his 858 people died in the trek. Rather than looking back, Hicks wrote, "Our race have retreated 1,000 miles from their stately mountains, leaving their noble rivers behind, until we come here, and trust here we shall finally stand to perform the grand work of our national education." So by 1849, Tahlequah was established as a permanent city. There was a brick courthouse, businesses. The Fort Smith Herald reported that Tahlequah is a quiet and orderly place. 4 stores, 1 saddler's shop, a tailor shop, 3 blacksmiths, a shoemaker. And 3 taverns. This is a superior farming and stock raising country. It's gratifying to see nearly everybody going to church on Sabbath mornings. When news of California gold was verified here in the Cherokee Nation, they decided to send a company to search for gold. The Cherokee Advocate published their intent. There's a company forming in Tahlequah, Cherokee Nation, for California, with the design of joining the company now forming in Fort Smith, which company will leave the 1st of April. The regulations are the necessary equipments required by said company. All young men in the nation who may wish to try their fortunes in the gold regions of California have now the opportunity. Any persons wishing further information with regard to the tramp can obtain it by applying to the undersigned, Tahlequah, Cherokee Nation, James S. Van, Daniel M. Gunter. Well, that's just a teaser. There's more to come. But I got to go down to Oklahoma, went into Tahlequah, talked with the guys there in that museum. And then after I left there, Billy, I went up to a place called Saline, Oklahoma, because there's a Salina, Kansas. There's a Salina, Oklahoma. And that was the great rendezvous spot. And so there were wagon trains that came from Springfield, Missouri. It was Springdale, Arkansas, and then the Cherokee there in Tahlequah. They all met just about 30 miles northwest of Tahlequah in Oklahoma, and then started this journey north and northwest. There was about 250 wagons, 12 abreast
Wow.
in that wagon train. So amazing
Wow.
stuff. And I'm trying to blaze this trail that nobody in the 21st century has walked it. The last reports that I can find is the last time it was walked was 1900.
Oh wow, that's pretty awesome.
So it's a lot of fun to try to sort of piece it all back together. There's a group here in Kansas called the Friends of the Cherokee Trail, and they have put up signposts along intersections where the Cherokee Trail had transited. So I sort of have these connect the dots kind of thing. So tomorrow I'm going out to find all of those signs, and
Wow.
then I'm using a program in Garmin that it will connect the dots for me and give me a trail to walk.
Wow.
But a lot of it is private property.
Right.
So I'm
That's going to be
meeting with
tough.
property owners. This again, the Friends of the Cherokee Trail set me up. They're meeting with the property owners on March the 4th. They're all excited about this thing, and so I'm going to find a time when I can walk through their property. So yeah,
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'm
it's a
looking
different.
forward to watching some of that. That's interesting.
Well, it's not anything I have ever done before. Well, I take it back. When I was on active duty in Macedonia, I had to do a trail across northern Macedonia, um, and so that's the closest thing I've ever done to anything like this. So we'll see how it goes.
Wow.
It
Really
may be
cool,
a
man.
big failure. I may be a big fail, and you guys can just all throw rocks at me.
Hey, it'll be a fun adventure either way.
Yep. All righty. Well, good to have you on the show.
Yes, sir. It's good to be here. I just want to give a quick shout out to. I see some familiar names on the chat. Senior Hiker 77, Dave Collier,
Yep. Yep.
Everyday Backpacker. I don't know them personally, but I know see a lot of familiar names on there. I want to thank them for tuning in.
Well, they're
So
they're great folks. I know most of them.
yeah,
And yeah, they're all just terrific folks. John and I have hiked. He invited me to the Cumberland Island to hike with him and a whole crew. That first time, I think it was 3 years ago. John, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We hiked to Cumberland Island, and then we did the Land Between the Lakes, and then we went back to Cumberland Island and hiked again. But yeah, a lot of fun with those guys, and
oh yeah, I'm sure.
it's
And man,
just
I'll
a
tell you the backpacking and the kayaking communities that I've uh, befriended and crossed paths with over the years. All of them are awesome people. I mean, great people. They're
yeah.
just a whole nother breed of human being.
Well, I think the trail sort of beats us up enough that it humbles us,
Yeah, yeah.
and and that
There's a lot of respect there amongst backpackers and kayakers alike.
yes, yeah, uh, and bike packers. That's a whole different realm too that I'm not familiar with. But up here, there's a lot of bike packers
Hmm.
on trails in Kansas. I mean, it's sort of flat, so
Right,
it's not like hiking the Smokies or something. But
right.
we have our share of hills. So
Well, see, a lot of people think the Uaris, where I'm from, I'm 30 minutes from the Uari National Forest, and they
yes,
think that our Uaris are flat. They are badly mistaken.
oh
I've
yes,
heard it. I've heard it called the Little Appalachian Trail, but it's called that for a reason.
it's yeah, yeah. I've hiked in those Uwharrie Mountains, and
Hmm.
you, you laugh at them at your own peril because those that have laughed at them have never been in them before.
Yeah. Do you mind if I
Oh,
just give kind of a quick background how 12 Stones got started?
well, that's what I was going to ask you. So yeah, go right ahead.
Well, first to answer your question, when was the first time you walked in the woods? Pretty much all my life I've been walking in the woods, fishing, hunting, doing outdoor stuff. But my first official I would say hike was with my brother-in-law. This is probably back around 2007. We hiked jumping off rock. And
This
then,
project's
if I
focused on
remember correctly,
142 miles of the
that
Cherokee
year,
Trail from the Oklahoma border near
Man,
Tyro,
so
Kansas,
I lost
and then
my mother
traveling
that year.
northwest through
Oh
the
no!
Chautauqua
And
Hills,
yeah, and
then
around the
Flint
same
Hills
time,
to
my
intersect.
wife and her mother-in-law, they were having to tie up some loose ends out in Oregon because her dad was getting ready to pass also. So she had some estate things that she had to deal with out there. So we, as a family vacation, we all traveled out to Oregon. And that particular year was when I really fell in love with hiking. And man, we hiked the Columbia River Gorge, we hiked Mount St. Helens, Multnomah Falls, I mean, Mount Adams, just all over the Pacific Northwest. And immediately I was addicted. And fast forward to about 2016, I had already met up with the 12 Stones guys, and what we would do, say about once a year, twice a year, we would all get together and do an overnight camping trip. So 2016 was our first official backpacking trip. And man, I'm gonna tell you, we didn't have a clue. We had Walmart backpacks. We had the $30 3-pound tents. We had the blue tarps from Walmart, the sleeping pads. You're talking 35, 40 pounds of gear per person, and hauling this stuff up. If you know anything about Horse Mountain down in Uwharrie, that's not an easy hike. But man, we didn't have a clue, but we had a good time. So that was our first official backpacking trip. And about a year later, one thing led to another, and we started wanting to do a little kayaking. And so the whole gist of 12 Stones is not really backpacking, hiking, kayaking. We're about more about the adventure and the fellowship and the camaraderie. So originally, I'd say it's been about 9 years ago now. I met my friend Josh Kepley. He also has a YouTube channel called Woods, Water, and Jesus.
Okay.
He's pastor of Jackson Creek Baptist Church down in Denton. So we crossed paths. It was kind of a mistake, but no, it wasn't really a mistake. It was just God, yoking two fellows together. So we met at a church meeting. We swapped numbers. 6 months later, he calls me up by mistake. So we get to talking like we recognize one another's voice. Before you know it, we'd been on the phone about an hour and a half over an accidental phone call. And man, we cried and we shared burdens and we talked fishing and hunting and camping and it's like immediately there was a yoke there between the two of us. And man, we've been best friends ever since.
Well, that's awesome.
So that was the initial friendship that started 12 Stones before 12 Stones was even a concept.
Huh.
So years later came the backpacking trip to kayaking. And in 2019, a friend of mine that I had been watching for years has a YouTube channel also. His name's Shane. He has a YouTube channel called Monkey in Round. And we've been watching him for several years. We've been watching guys like the River Kings. And my friend Shane told me, he said, well, as long as you guys have been doing this, outdoors, camping, backpacking, kayaking, that kind of thing, he said, you ought to consider starting up a YouTube channel. And so pretty much a year went by, and I had thought about it and prayed about it and, seek God for what he wanted me to do with it. And then I came up with this concept of 12 Stones, which is basically it's taken out of the book of Joshua, chapter 4, when the children of Israel crossed the river. They built this memorial of 12 stones. So what that represents is, for future generations, when their children look back and see, hey, Dad, what's this? They can say, well, this is the miracles, and this is the things that God had done for us, and the miracles that God had performed in our lives. So that kind of parallels each of us that are the core group of the 12 Stones, telling our kids what God's done for us and being able to share that with others in the backpacking community and just, passersby, hikers who may ask, what is 12 Stones? And then that gives me an open door, gives me an opportunity to, just brag on the Lord a little bit and just tell, how he's blessed me and how this whole thing just came to be.
That's
So
awesome.
that's pretty much the basics of how, the 12 Stones was.
Yeah,
It's been a wild ride. It's been a fun time. God's really been good to us, and we have a lot of fun together.
that's great. Great to see and to hear the backgrounds on all these
Hmm.
stories. Uh, I did a video on my background, and I won't go into a whole lot of it other than just say that, it was the trail that really it was what God used to heal, do a lot of healing. I'm not healed yet, but there's been a lot of healing that has gone on since out of 32 years of military service. There's a lot of cuts and wounds and bruises and breaks that you have, and
Right.
it's not all physical. So to get out on the trail and I talk about hiking as a soulful experience that is body,
Absolutely.
mind, and spirit. That's the soul of man. It's not just the spirit that we sometimes, but it's really the body, mind, and spirit, the whole person. And so uh, when I started hiking the Appalachian Trail, I mean it was a body thing. It whooped, and coming up out of yeah, Fontana Gap and coming up into the Smoky Mountains. It's a 5 mile incline that goes up to a place called Shuckstack. And it's just a grinding 5 miles of up. And when I got to the top of it, I said, I am quitting. Uh, I am too old for this and I am quitting. But this young man sat down beside me and he goes, Man, that's no joke. And I started laughing so hard. I thought, well, if this kid, this 19-year-old kid, thinks it's hard, then okay, maybe it really is. So after that, I started physically getting in shape, your trail legs, whatever you call that.
Hmm.
And then after that, it was a mental game. And so my mind's playing games with me, saying, you're selfish. You should be at home. You got things going on at home that you need to be taken care of, and you're out here
Hmm.
doing this for yourself. You're just selfish. And it took about 100 miles of that till finally I figured out that there's a difference between being selfish and self care.
Right.
And if I take care of myself, then I can care for others. So I worked through that. And then after that, it became a spiritual thing. And so for me, it was, I'm looking at all this beauty of the Smoky Mountains and looking out. Every
Hmm.
morning I'd have breakfast at a different mountain vista view. And and all of a sudden I realized that I'm not just a spectator looking at creation, but I'm part of that creation.
Right.
And in that there was healing that took place. So yeah, a lot of fun and a good place, a great community. We all walking these paths, and it's fun to walk them together. I got to
Oh
say
yeah.
hi to a good friend of mine, actually a mentor and a man that I looked up to from my childhood, is Sonny Pollock, and he's from Zip City, Alabama, where I grew up. And Sonny's on here, and I really appreciate it. But yeah, Sonny was one of those men that, as a boy, I would always look to say, okay, that's someday maybe I could be a little bit like that. And
Yeah.
he's a good man. So
I hear you.
all right,
I totally understand your concept about healing and being in the outdoors and it being a spiritual thing. For us, it's a big thing for us to come together, like-minded Christian men, individuals. We're out there to have a good time. We're out there to fellowship. We're out there seeking God. We pray before every hiking trip, every camping trip.
yeah,
And part of that thing, if anybody's ever seen my logo, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it in this right here, that little red number three there, I took the
yeah,
letter E out and replaced it with a number three. Well, what that represents the blood of Jesus Christ, the Holy Trinity, and also it represents that adventure. The placement of that number 3 puts God right in the center of every adventure.
Hmm.
So everything
Nice.
we do, we give God His time through, whether it be through a devotional. My friend Josh Kepley, he may preach a message. Our first official trip, and it was one of my first videos that we done. You can look way back to the beginning. I think I've got 100 and some videos on there now. But one of our first trips, toward the end of the first video, we're out there in the middle of a gold mine, Russell Mines. If anyone around the UR area knows where that
Yep.
is.
Yep.
And my friend Josh, asked him if he'd say a few words, and before you know it, he's tore up and he's up there preaching a sermon, and we're down there stuck in the middle of a gold mine, and we're just having a good time. We're having church, so
Yep.
that's
Yep.
what we're about.
That's awesome. Hey, Squidley's on here as well. You're
Hey,
familiar with Squidley.
Squidley, absolutely
And,
good friend.
and I didn't know you moved to Florence out of college. That was cool. Florence is the Zip City where I grew up. I grew up in the suburbs of Zip City. Zip City was 3 churches, a store, and about 4 houses, and that was it. And I grew up 3 miles from there, way out in the sticks. And but the closest town to us was Florence, and it was where I was born. It's about 25 miles to go into Florence. That was a big thing. That was a deliberate decision to go to town. And there was a university there, the University of North Alabama. And but I didn't know Squidley. Most people know when they think of Florence, they're thinking of Italy. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, good friends with Squidley. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Hopefully, me and him and Crow. There's been talk about us getting together and doing maybe some collaboration, maybe doing some camping together. Hopefully,
that'd be cool.
sometimes this year we can get our ducks in a row and get together on something.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome to do. Yeah, those guys, just great folks. Talk about Crow. He's another great guy. He just
Yeah, I don't know about his friend. I don't know about his friend Bob. I think he's a little off his rocker. Backpacker Bob.
Backpacker Bob. He's just. I did a collaboration video with Brad, and we were talking about protocol on the camp, on the trail, and he talked. That was the first time I'd heard of Backpacker Bob, because he always had, little Papa Smurf was always with him, and Brad said that Papa Smurf was a jerk, but Backpacker Bob is a bigger jerk, and I think he's right.
Well, he's right. I'm hoping that maybe they'll drag him along when they come. Maybe
you're a glutton for punishment.
Maybe I can teach Backpacker Bob some trail etiquette.
I don't know. He wants to go and wrestle with Bigfoot too. So, I posted a thing on Old Crow Hiking Show today, the Facebook group.
Right.
Somebody posted a video, a trail camera that supposedly had captured Bigfoot, Sasquatch yelling, screaming, hollering in the woods. I said, I think that's Crow out there digging a cat hole. I don't think that's. Yeah, Backpacker Bob is a colossal idiot. Poor guy. Poor guy. He needs friends too, I guess.
Another acquaintance of mine, he just popped on in the comments. I don't know if you've seen that. MK Ultra. He said that there's only one backpacker YouTuber that's going to wrestle Bigfoot, and that's me. I can just about believe that.
Oh, well, Mike, you got to come out of the clouds first. You got to come back to Earth before you start wrestling Bigfoot. I don't know if you're still in the space station or not. I'd heard that they had to do some kind of emergency flight to go up there and get him.
Yeah, he's out there. He's a mess. I actually got the chance to hike with him a little bit. We done the URA through hike last year, and that's I'm sure you know about that. It's a 4-day, 40-mile event, and it's heavily supported. Actually, I ended up slack packing. And yeah, I'm confessing, those that are watching this, Anthony Barber, Shane Dublin, Brad Moore, Mountains and More, you may know him. Some of
Yeah.
the ones that were with us, yeah, you show up and you got all this gear in your backpack. You're carrying like 40 pounds in your pack. Actually, I was about 25 with that water.
Oh,
So by the time you get ready to actually hit the trail, you're throwing your backpack in a trailer, and they meet you at the next trailhead where you're camping for the night. So we ended up slack packing.
oh, that's
And
sweet.
it, I mean, it took away from carrying the full load of that pack that day, but I think overall it made the experience more enjoyable because instead of killing ourselves, we were able to talk amongst one another and just kind of enjoy being on the trail together. And
Yeah.
like I was saying, my friend MK Ultra, I actually got the chance to hike with him. We were just kind of passerby several times each day throughout that hike. The first day of that hike, I actually ended up missing, and I've got to go back and do that 10-mile section because my wife's grandfather had passed away. So I had to take that day off. So I
Yeah.
met them at Yates' place that night, and then I
Yeah.
camped and continued the rest of the through hike. But yeah, that was a blast. My friend Shane Dublin from Mucking Around, Mountains and More, Brad Moore, Anthony
Yeah.
Barber from Cross Paddles, and just man, it was just a blast. I had a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you heard when Mike and I were talking. He The way we met was there at the Uwharrie, and
Right,
I was doing a yo-yo because I was hiking from the south end. I hiked all the way to the northern terminus, and I turned around and hiked back to the south end. So did I think 60? I think it's like 32 miles. I think I did 64 miles. And in that, he I was one trailhead there. I was just walking through it, and I hear somebody so wandering monk, and I turned around, and it was him. And he didn't know me from Adam, but he knew my backpack
right,
because Hilltop Packs had made my backpack, and he had seen it on one of their advertisements and on one of their little shout outs and showed my pack. So
right.
he and I started talking, and I said, someday we got to get together. And it was weird because the way we got together was over YouTube and over
Right.
doing this live. So really cool, really cool.
Yeah, I see both of my boys. They're in the live chat, and I'll tell them hello and tell them I love them. But
Alrighty.
yeah, the whole YouTube experience, man, it's opened up a way for me to meet and cross paths with people that I otherwise would never have even had a clue. Never had a chance to meet, and made a lot of friends. Through this YouTube journey, and I've really enjoyed it.
I I have. I have. It's a lot of fun.
Hmm.
My wife thinks I'm crazy. She says I try to get her to go with me. She says, "If is there outdoor or is there indoor plumbing?" And I said, "No, but there's you got a trowel," and she didn't want to have any part of that. So I understand it, but I
Yeah.
also, yeah, it's a it's an awesome thing. I'm
Hmm.
really getting the itch now as I'm watching a couple of folks that are hiking through the AT and
Hmm.
starting the AT again this year, and I'm really getting the itch to get back out there. So I told
Right.
Connie, I said, in a couple of years, I may get back out there again and do the AT again. So we'll
Yeah.
see. I may
Man,
be.
I would love to do it at some point, but with my life the way it is right now, man, I am so busy with church and with my job, and to do any kind of adventure, it's finding time to do that. So the Appalachian Trail is completely out of the question for me right now. But I do have family that lives about 30 minutes from one section of the Appalachian Trail. If you know where it goes through Franklin, North Carolina. And I had thought
Yeah.
about going up there several times. I have thought about going up through there and hiking some of that section.
Franklin is a neat place, and there's a hostel there. It's Chica and Sunsets. I don't know if
Hmm.
you've ever seen their YouTube channel or not, but
I have
Chica
not.
and Sunsets, um, they have a hostel there that they through hiked the AT, stayed in different hostels, and sort of made a joke of what would the perfect hostel look like. And after they got done, they decided, you know what? Let's make it. So they
Hmm.
went and bought a house in Franklin, North Carolina, and made a hostel.
Okay.
And it's an awesome place. It's
Right.
an awesome. So
That's cool.
yeah. Well, so
So
what's on your
go ahead.
agenda coming up?
Well,
Yeah.
actually, we had a trip planned for the Linville Gorge. We were planning on
Yeah.
camping overnight. Matter of fact, last time I talked to you, I think we may have discussed that a little bit.
Yeah.
And that kind of fell through. You know, life kind of happened for everybody. We had some car issues with one of my friends, and then another friend of mine had a death in the family, and it's everybody just kind of fell out all at once. So we've rescheduled that for March.
Oh,
And
okay.
the week of the 18th through the 22nd, I believe it is, we're me and my wife and my family we're going to the Outer Banks for the week.
Oh,
And then when we come back from the Outer Banks, we're leaving on Friday, so we'll be on Friday and Saturday, and we're going back up to the Linville Gorge, and we're going to try to plan that same trip again.
that's
And
nice.
yeah, I've got a
Such
nice
a place.
campsite up there on the side of the gorge on the west side, and then we're going to be using Old Highway 105, which skirts the west rim of the gorge,
Okay.
and then we'll probably hike a couple of miles at Linville Falls, and then maybe hit some of the gorge trails, some of the
Yeah.
easier ones.
So, yeah, because that thing is that's a challenge.
That
That's a
gorge is
challenge.
brutal.
Yeah, it is. But the falls are beautiful. Walking up through
Absolutely.
there, seeing all those. It's
Hmm.
it's so many beautiful spots over there. Uh, um, Grandfather Mountain.
Hmm.
All of those are just gorgeous places. So yeah, good deal.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that. And I'm hoping later in the year sometime, maybe if things work out, time permits, and everybody's jobs kind of, if all of our ducks kind of fall in a row, I'm hoping maybe to do a kayak camping trip later in the year. So we'll see how that works.
Oh, really? Whereabouts for the kayaking?
Well, last year, everybody that's local here knows the Uari. A lot of times it's so bony that you can't really paddle it. So all year last year, the whole entire summer, like we were all waiting for some rain. So it's
Yeah,
sitting at like a 2 foot level, maybe 2.5, and I even seen it at one time get down to like 1.5 at the driest part of the summer. So I have paddled it at like 2.3, and you do a lot of walking. You do a little paddling and a lot of walking.
yeah,
So we're hoping this year that maybe we'll have some more water in the river. Recently we have, but it's been too cold. And maybe I'm hoping by springtime there'll be enough water in the river maybe that we can get things together and do an
yeah,
overnight kayak camping trip again. It's been a few years since we've done that.
yeah, yeah. Mike's saying it's worst drought. I tried to do the Ozark Highlands Trail last October, and the first 40 miles into it, there was no water. I got to when I really decided I was going to have to stop it. I got to this one creek, and all of the trail guide says, make sure you get water here because this is the last reliable water source for the next 40 miles.
Oh wow.
And it had some intermittent streams, but I got there, and that creek, which I'd read notes, in May. I was there in October. In May, people were going through it waist deep through this creek, wading through it, and it was bone dry.
I
There was
believe
not
it.
a drop of water in it. And so I hiked about another right at 20 miles, got to a campsite that had water. They had a water well, and that's when I decided I was going to stop there because it just wasn't. You just can't do it. So, yeah. Oh man.
A lot of times
Oh,
when people ask me as far as hiking the URAs, because I'm a URA guy, and a lot of times they'll either say something to someone on the Trailblazers, the URA Trailblazers. Let me mention them real quick while I'm there. They're a Facebook group, a group of volunteers around the URA National Forest, and what they do is they help to build and maintain the URA trail system.
yeah.
And we are actually volunteer. We've got a section, and you probably hiked it, the Walker's Creek section.
Yeah.
From Walker's Creek, and then you take the spur trail all the way back up to where the King Mountain Junction is.
Yep. Yep.
That's our section. And
Oh, okay.
so sometimes people will ask on that Facebook page, or they'll ask us, or they ask me, what's the water like around the URAs for hiking? So usually, if we hadn't had any rain recently, or if I look at that gauge and it's like 2 foot or below, I'm like,
Yeah.
you better be packing some water, because you can about gauge it by that and already know that it's going to be dry.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Yeah.
times I'll watch that gauge.
I when I did it, I was fortunate. Now I did Burkhead Mountain. I've done Burkhead Mountain, and I don't know how many times, a bunch. And one time I went, and it was pretty dry, but that night we got a storm, and it went from dry to flood really quick.
Oh wow!
So, and I got to this one section where there's a stream, and I usually got water on that stream, and I thought, man, I got to this stream early. Well, it wasn't. This stream had overflowed, and when I got to I turned around and went back the other way because I didn't know
Right.
how deep this was, and it was the water was going. And when I went back the next time and sort of measured it, I would have been in about 7 foot of water.
Oh
And I
wow!
kept there because it just keeps going down to the
You gotta
stream.
you've got to
It
be
was up.
talking about Betty McGee's Creek.
Yep, that was it. That was it.
I actually crossed that once. I had been up there one time and hiked over to the Gray Owl Cabin, and I
Yep.
crossed that on foot. The water was frozen.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, I know it had to be 5 or 6 feet deep. If it had given way and I had went into to that water,
Oh
it
my.
would have been
Yeah.
it wouldn't have ended well.
Oh, that wouldn't be good. That would not be good. Oh goodness. I'm
A
trying to
lot of
find them.
people
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. A lot of
No, go
people
ahead.
don't realize with the Burkhead how much history and how many like hidden old home sites. There's chimneys that are full chimneys that are still standing. The gold mine sites. There's just so
Yeah.
much out there that's off trail that people don't even know about.
Yeah.
I saw a text message from my friend Phil. If you've seen in the comments, Camp Chair, it's too far to go back and look now. But if you've seen that name in the chat, that's my friend Phil. Me and him, we've hiked off trail probably about every inch of the Burkheads at some point.
Oh, no
And
kidding.
we share our Vins and maps. We'll trade back and forth if we find something that we've not found before. And we've got this huge collection of pins and coordinates from different things that we found. But yeah, man, it's just full. But I'm gonna tell you, if you don't know your way around, if you don't know how to navigate, you can really get in some serious trouble out there. And
Yeah, but it's such a cool place.
it
The
is,
rock
man.
formations all out in there, and like you said,
Hmm.
the gold mines. If you find these shafts, those are cool. And still some of them still have the old ironwork, at the
Right,
top of them.
right. You're talking about the Rush Mine on Camp 3 Trail.
Yeah, yep, it's
Yep.
exactly, Yep.
I would anybody that hikes Burkett, anybody that's watching that has any insight that they would like to hike that, I highly recommend that Camp 3 trail. That's an awesome trail.
That's a great trail. And then
Mm-hmm.
and you got water when you get past Camp 3, there's water
Mm-hmm.
there. And then you got that climb to go up to Camp 5.
Right.
And the first time I ever went out there, I hiked it and thought I was going to stay at Camp 3. I got there and there were 3 couples there. It was loud. I said, "Nah, this isn't for me." So I just kept on going, and then I started going up that incline and thinking, "Man, I should have stayed." It wasn't that bad. So,
Yeah.
oh my.
I
Yeah,
just I seen my buddy Brad Moore that I had through hiked the Uari Trail. He just popped on. Say hello to him.
okay. Yep.
So,
And I just want to, I put this thing up here. Anybody that would like to come on and be a guest on this thing, send me an email. What I have found, and really what I was wanting to do with it, is to sort of share our audiences with one another, especially new channels, to come on and give them sort of a little bit of a broader. I don't have a lot, but give them a broader audience, and so that they can start building a following, as on their channel. So if you want to do that, it's pretty easy. It's almost like a Zoom call. If you've ever done a Zoom call, is it that hard, Billy? I mean, did you find it hard to?
Well, it's not if you just do it, just the basic setup. But as far as everything that you're doing, linking it to your Facebook, and I'm sure there are quite a few more steps to doing all of that, linking those
But
together.
that's all on my end. I can do that. But
Right.
for someone to
Right.
come on, a guest, it's really not hard
Yeah,
to
it's
come
not
on.
hard at all.
I'll send you a link. You just click on that link and you're on it. And if you want to,
Right.
if you're nervous about it, we can do a test run and try that too. I don't mind doing that. But I love having folks on it. And this week is great. Next couple of weeks are going to be great. But then I'm going to do a Saturday show once a month or so. I don't like to do a lot of them because I don't want to impact somebody else's channel that they're also doing a live stream. But
Right.
like John Noble, I don't know if you know John. His YouTube channel is John Noble Media, and he's from Australia. So we've been trying to get him on here, and he keeps saying, it's the middle of the night, and I got to go to work the next day. I said, well, let's do a Saturday show. And so he and I are going to do that. It's probably going to be like the 11th of March. We're going to do a Saturday show. I can do that, but I don't like to do a lot of them because I got a life too. So
Right.
but I if you just can't do a Monday night, then let me know that, and we'll do something to work it out. But yeah, love to have folks on.
Yeah, I
But
think
just
Michael Kirkpatrick, he's spamming our chat.
is he?
He says, yeah, he's back to earth and he's ready to come on again. He's back to earth. So.
Well, we'll get him on a future one.
Yeah, he's a trip.
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to get into backpacking, we talked about this before. You don't have to go out and buy the most expensive gear. I'm a big supporter of Osprey packs, Columbia gear, Black Diamond, that kind of thing. But you don't have to absolutely have this type of gear to get started if you want to get started into backpacking or even just day hikes. What I recommend is just go to Walmart. I mean, you can buy a cheap pack at Walmart. I had a set of trekking poles that I bought from Walmart that I used for 5 or 6 years, and I still got them, and I could probably still use them. Never had any issues with them. Of course, now I have a set of fixed length Black Diamond, which I love. But you don't have to have that kind of thing. Just go out and get you a tent, a hammock, a backpack, or what. If you want to camp on the ground or in a hammock, just get you something and try it out. You may not like it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I started. I'll tell you, like you. I'm a ground dweller. I'm not a hammock dweller. We talked. Max and I talked about that. But my first tent was a standing free tent, Walmart tent. I still have it. I still use it.
Mm-hmm.
I still have folks when somebody wants to go with me. I'll throw them, I'll set them up with that.
Right.
But I also my first, I guess, lightweight tent, which I love that tent, was a Lanshan 2. And while I have a duplex now, there are a lot of things about that Lanshan that I like better than my Z-Pax tent. I got the Z-Pax tent when I was doing the AT because that Dyneema, it sheds the weight of the water too easily, and so you
Right.
stay pretty light. And nylon will soak up some water and be heavy, but that Lanshan 2 for literally a sixth of the cost, it was almost as good as my other one. And yeah, Nicole she has Lanshan. She uses her Lanshan. A lot of
Right.
folks do, and they're great. I gave mine to my brother, Rick, and he uses it every time we go. And he's even learned to set it up now.
Right. Well, like I said, right back to our first backpacking trip that I had talked about before. I mean, when we started, I had the basic $25 Walmart 2-person tent. And then I'm
Yep.
looking over here at my brother-in-law, and he's got this knockoff Eno from Walmart hammock, and the $4 or $5 blue tarps as a shelter system. And I'm
Yeah.
looking at this guy like I'm waiting to see how this is going to work. So after this trip, after waking up with my back hurting about every 15 minutes from trying to sleep on those little 1-inch Walmart blue sleeping pads that cost about $4, I got a hammock right after that, and I have never looked back. And I'm exactly the opposite. I will not sleep on the ground unless my little one's coming with me. But I make sure that I have a superior sleeping pad.
Yes. Yep. And that's the other thing. As you get a little bit of experience of it, you know that where to invest. And the sleeping
Right.
pad, me, that's a first place to invest because it's going to keep you warmer at night in the
Mm-hmm.
winter. Get that insulation, and it's going to be actually cooler in the summer. I take the same sleeping pad that I use, and in the summertime, I've got a little light down blanket. I lay on that sleeping pad and pull that light blanket over me, and I'm good. In the
Right.
winter, I do like my 17-degree sleeping bag. Now I do admit that I'm looking at quilts now, so I've seen a
Right.
lot of folks going to quilts, and I think that might be the thing
Yeah.
to go.
I love my quilt. And a matter of fact, they make quilts where you can get actual straps that will go underneath your sleeping pad to kind of keep them locked into place. I don't know
Yeah,
if you saw those.
yeah, I have. I've seen those. I've seen
Um,
those.
I use my hammock gear. I've got of course, I have a hammock. I've got the War Bonnet Blackbird XLC, and of course,
Oh yeah,
when you go to hammocks, you got to have bottom quilt and top quilt. Well, I've got a
yeah,
set of Hammock Gear 20-degree quilts, top and bottom matching. That I'll use those from about 25 up to about 65, 70 degrees, and they work great. So for me, that's my 2 to 3 season go to. Any
yeah,
colder than about 25 degrees, I could push it down to 20 maybe. You got to have something else or warmer, set up.
yeah.
But yeah, that's my go to year round here in North Carolina.
That's great. Uh, just looking here at one that I really liked. Where is he? Camp Chair. He's using a Durston X Mid 1, and I've been looking at that X Mid 1 Pro, which it's a Dyneema tent. Um, and if I go back on a long through hike, I may pull the trigger and invest in that thing too, but we'll see.
Right.
We'll see. But
Very cool.
yeah, it's it's all a grand experiment. John, Senior Hiker 77, he laughs at me and gives me a hard time because I get sort of stubborn with my gear and I won't move.
Right.
Got my kit sort of dialed in now, and that's
Uh-huh.
what I use. So, um, Jason's
Yeah,
asking who's on here. It's this Billy with 12 stones adventures.
yeah, my friend Camp Chair, my friend Phil, he's a ground dweller. And I've tried many
Okay.
times talking to him, showing my gear off, say, hey, come here, look at this. And I can't convince him to sleep in a hammock.
No,
But,
yeah, same thing. I got a good friend there in North Carolina, McIntyre. He's a hammock. He says a good camper will his feet never hit the ground till he's ready to walk.
mhm.
Yeah, well, that's great. I just don't know. But yeah,
Yeah, well, a
yeah,
lot of people, where they make the mistake with the hammocks, a lot of people, they'll lay in one the first time and they don't realize they're laying in this thing like a banana. And they wake
that's
up in the middle of the night with their knees hyperextended, their back hurting, and their neck, kind of all cricked up. And
yep,
they don't
yep,
realize that you've got to turn your body in an asymmetrical position. That way, your foot, say, at the top left and your feet at the bottom right. So you're
yep,
laying this way in the hammock. Well, what that does is it allows you to get a flatter lay. And a lot of people don't realize that. So they'll sleep in it one time and hate it and just never attempt to lay in one ever again.
yeah,
But like you mentioned before, it's a learning experience. So you've got to learn
yeah.
to there's a
It is.
proper way and an improper way to hang that hammock. There's an
Yep,
improper way to lay in the hammock. And
yep.
there's so many variables and mistakes that one can make in doing so. So don't give up. If you try it one time and don't like it, don't give up.
Yep. I'm again Senior Hiker 77. He and we have hiked together several times, and he just tickles me a lot. But he has all these little sayings. One of them is, are you a side street sleeper? Or are you a back sleeper? And he says, I'm a rotisserie sleeper. And that's the way I am. I'm a rotisserie sleeper. I just roll. So
Yeah, well,
if
that's
I got in,
me.
I'm afraid I would be rolled up in just like a cigarette or something. When I was on
Well,
active duty, we were doing parachute jumps, and I had a cigarette roll in my parachute. I was only about 20 feet in the air, but that parachute, it rolled up and I fell like a rock out of the sky. So I'm
oh
always
no.
afraid of getting rolled up in the in things. I don't like it.
Well,
I don't
the
like it.
thing with the hammock is that won't happen because, especially if it's cold. If you're
Yeah.
laying in that hammock and you've got this foot box and you try to turn left or turn on your right side or on your belly or however you want to lay in this hammock, if you come out from under that quilt, you're going to know it. So when you start that
Yeah.
roll and you start feeling those cold spots, don't worry, you won't get wrapped up in it like that. Trust
I'll just be a popsicle. All
me.
righty. Well, the time flies and we're
It
just
does,
about
man.
so and I'm gonna I know that MK wants to get on here again and we will make that happen. I got some openings in March. So if some folks want to jump on here, let me know. March is coming up and we can do that. Please just send me an email to Dan at wanderingmonkhikes.com. Because if I try to go back through the comments on here, I haven't figured that out yet. And I can't find them once we shut off. So I'm doing something wrong, but that's all a learning experience. It's like living in a hammock. I'm laying the wrong
Mhm.
way. So, but I
Right.
do want to talk about two things. One is
Okay.
the contest for next week, but then the contest winner for this week. Um, and I tell you, I apologize already because I was going to have Jason vote, and things got away from me. So, Jason, I'm just going to pick the winner. Okay. And this is actually a in the Army, we got the second award. You got an oak leaf cluster on your ribbon. So this is sort of the second award. This person has won before, but their story was so good that I told him, I said, I got to choose you again. And it's Kat from Steps by Katja. And she lives in Belgium. And the question was, telling me a story about what it's like to wake up on the trail. And what she started talking about was that she hates to get out of her sleeping bag. So she does everything that she can to stay in her sleeping bag as long as she can. And so it's gotten to where she likes to have breakfast in bed because she doesn't want to get out of the sleeping bag on the trail. So I told Kat, I said, all right, that's the best story that I've heard. So as folks, as you come on, think of your stories, send them to me. Again, please send them to me in my email, or if you want to message me on Facebook, you can do that. Or some folks send me messages through Instagram. You can do that. But if it's in the comments, I probably won't get it. So I need to get your contest entry. And the entry is for this week is what is. Let me find my questions again. Where were my questions? Here we go. Tell a story about what you liked or didn't like when you first started walking in the woods. Doesn't have to be hiking, doesn't have to be backpacking, doesn't have to be camping. But if you've gone for walks, what did you like the most, or what did you didn't like, or give me a contrast. But send that to me, and I'll send those entries to you, Billy, and you get to be on the hook to make the choice because I got to be here every week, and I don't want people mad at me. So if they're mad at you, that's on your channel.
Well,
all right.
I'm here to try to pick up a few subscribers, not lose them.
Well, it sounds like you've already gotten a couple. I got some comments saying that they've already gone to you. So good for that.
That's awesome. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad to do it, and glad that we have this community and all these people that are on here. Just wonderful, wonderful folks. And I feel blessed to just be associated with all of you. So
absolutely.
I will stop it here and respect everybody's time. It's just past 6. I like to do it for 1 hour. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay on the path, and God bless you.
God bless every one of you.